And we're back once again. It's the Horror Guys with episode 50. That's kind of landmarky. That's half 100.
Oh, I thought we were doing a Penn and Teller kind of thing there
Okay.
for a minute.
And for those of you on audio only, he was doing sign languages of 50.
5-0.
5-0.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, here we are again. We saw some horror movies, and we're going to tell you all about them, talk about them, review them. What do we see?
Well, we started out with The Mad Doctor of Market Street, a Universal film from 1942.
Right.
The Hammer sequel, Revenge of Frankenstein, following up their Christopher Lee Peter Cushing movie in 1958.
Mm-hmm.
A short film known only as Nail from 2019. The modern horror film Chaos AD from 2016.
Or is it 2019?
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the international oddity known as the Berberian Sound Studio from 2012. Well, there's a lot to talk about.
So, here we go.
Here we go.
What's up first, eh?
The Mad Doctor of Market Street.
It was a dark and stormy night on Market Street, as these movies so often start out.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
usually are.
It was a dark and stormy night.
Well, on this particular dark and stormy night, the movie was directed by Joseph H. Lewis, was written by Al Martin, stars Una Merkel, Lionel Atwill, Nate Pendleton, 1 hour and 1 minute. There is a link in the show notes.
Movie's a little hard to find. We watched it on archive.org.
Oh, yes.
And it was kind of like a VHS copy recorded off of television and then transferred to beta and then copied onto DVD and then loaded up to the internet.
Now, archive.org
Okay,
is
it wasn't that bad quality-wise.
yeah,
but
it really was.
Yeah,
it was. It was
pretty-
off
okay.
of VHS. and
Okay, it was pretty bad.
filmed on a camera,
Yeah.
potato or something.
Anyway, Universal didn't release this one on DVD. It's not
Ever.
not really out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which archive.org, I've seen other movies like this on there, and I wonder the legality of that. This is Universal. They're a big company. It's not like they've gone out of business.
Maybe they don't
This
care.
is new enough. It's still in copyright. It's just
Mhm.
like they don't care about some movies, and some
Yeah.
they do.
Mm-hmm.
Put some of Bela Lugosi stuff up there and see how fast you get sued.
Yeah, things they're actually making money off of.
Yeah.
I think there's the difference. They don't have it released. They don't really care, I don't think. You can't buy. You can't go.
You start selling Song of the South and see if Disney starts yelling.
Well, they're
They're not making money on that one right now either.
Yeah, you can't buy that.
You can't
Can't-
buy that.
You can't buy that? Are you sure?
You haven't been able to buy that since the 70s.
Okay.
It's like one of the most rarest movies out there for collectors.
Huh.
Well, this is a rare movie. It is not, however, a great movie.
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Ralph Benson. Oh, I should have asked first. Did you like it?
Meh.
Yeah, the same answer. Yeah,
Yeah.
very meh.
Meh.
And meh is really kind of the whole point of this one, I thought.
Yeah, I didn't hate it, but it was meh. Yeah.
Dr. Ralph Benson has his research lab right there on Market Street, as you said, in a dark and stormy night.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Saunders goes in, and the doctor says he's anxious to proceed.
And at first you have some hope that, because the byline of the movie is genius or fiend, and you have some hope initially that, hey, he's not too bad of a guy. He's interested in the benefits of humanity, and he has got some genius scientific ideas.
Well, so is Dr. Frankenstein, actually.
Yeah, it goes downhill quickly. but there is an initial hope that, hey, he's not such a bad guy.
The Mad Doctor of Market Street.
I guess the title kind of gave
Kind
it
of
away.
gives it away, yeah. Well, the doctor says he's been doing animal testing, but now he wants to try his process on a human. He claims to have been putting animals into suspended animation and curing diseases after reanimating them. He offers Saunders $1,000 to submit to being suspended. Saunders, of course, $1,000 in 1942 is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Saunders brings the police several days later. They break down the door and find Mr. Saunders on the table, apparently dead.
Yeah, this experiment didn't go as planned.
Or maybe it did, and he just didn't have time to revive him.
No.
We don't really know.
No, it failed. Yeah.
Dr. Benson has gone out through the window, and the police can't catch him. Turns out Benson is a pseudoscientist, not a real doctor at all. They're calling him the Mad Doctor of Market Street, And meanwhile, Benson has shaved off his beard and his fake-looking beard, and is now on a cruise ship.
You mean he peeled off his fake beard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now on a cruise ship headed to New Zealand under the name Graham.
Nobody recognizes him.
Graham observes the Wentworth women, Aunt Margaret and Patricia, dancing at the ball. The police know Benson is on board, but they think they'll track him down. Graham hits the policeman over the head and throws him overboard, but the annoying deckhand sees it happen. They stop and search, but they never find the body.
Never find who
The
did
policeman's
it
body.
really either. Yeah.
Well, they know it was Graham, but they don't know who Graham is.
Well, they don't know who Graham is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they know it was Benson. They don't know Benson is Graham.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
He's going under the name Graham now.
Right.
The deckhand is making a pain of himself to Patricia Wentworth. Aunt Margaret goes over and tells her friend, Mr. Graham, everything she's overheard, unaware that he's the killer, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That night, there's a fire in the hold, and some guy runs into the busy ballroom, screaming, "The ship's burning!"
Yeah, nice calm response, yeah. But,
And not surprisingly, things soon get chaotic as everyone jumps in a lifeboat and evacuates.
Yeah, basically the ship does fall apart. I mean, it probably was, you might have saved lives because it was an awful fast disaster.
You know, the Titanic and all these others, how many lives of stampeding people would you save if
Well, I
on
don't
the
know,
ticket
yeah.
stub, when you buy one of these things, it says, in case of emergency, go to lifeboat 6.
Yeah, I'm sure
They wouldn't
people
be
are going to
stampeding over each other
People
all
are
over
going
the
to
place.
calmly read that and go to calmly go to stations when the ship is exploding into fireballs shooting out of the hold and and shaking and tilting and
It's not a
people
Michael
are
Bay
going to
movie.
people are going
It's
to
a
calmly.
sinking ship.
Oh, it was pretty bad. It was pretty violent.
Yeah, it was definitely on
really cool.
fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we get a quick montage of rescue ships and radio antennas, and the next thing we see is that it's morning on a tropical island. The Wentworths, Dr. Graham, the captain, and a few others have landed there. The savage natives don't like white people and capture the whole group.
Yeah, and they're kind of generically Pacific Islander, I guess.
They didn't look
Generically
like white people in
Polynesian.
blackface.
They didn't-
These did look sort of islandish.
Yeah, but it was kind of generic-ish.
Well,
it
yeah,
was-
these were not specific islands.
Yeah, or it's even a specific region, really. Well, they were headed to New Zealand,
Mm-hmm.
so
South Pacific-ish.
something South Pacific-ish. Yeah, but anyway,
That's not narrowing it down a lot.
Anyway,
We're talking
they're-
islanders.
they're a bunch of ignorant savages. Yeah,
Well, they are.
There's the savages stereotype. It's pretty racist and stereotypical.
The chief's wife has died, but Graham says he can bring her back to life. That's when the rest of the survivors realize that Graham is not only a doctor, but he's also the fugitive Dr.
He's
Benson.
the doctor.
Benson/Graham does manage to resuscitate the chief's wife, saving all the white people's lives in the process. He plans to continue his experiments to bring back the dead, and he tells the others that no one is going to be allowed to leave this island and turn him in. His work must continue. The natives, since he brought back the chief's wife, they're all in on it. They'll work for Graham. He's the god of life and death.
Mm-hmm.
The natives...
And he cheated. She wasn't really dead. He recognized that she'd had a heart attack and was just unconscious, and he used adrenaline and smelling salts to revive her.
He's a fake.
Yeah.
Or wishful thinking, whichever.
Mm-hmm.
The natives ask Graham if he wants a wife, and he says no, he doesn't have the time. Then he changes his mind and says he wants a white wife.
Mm-hmm.
Patricia decides to cooperate in order to turn the tables on Graham. Graham wants to continue practicing raising the dead, and he kills the captain, planning to use him as a trial subject. Patricia agrees to marry Graham in order to save the captain immediately. The men finally turn the natives against Graham, and they insist that he bring back the man from the dead. And Graham does as they insist. He brings back the captain from the dead.
Not really dead.
He wasn't really dead. He was just
No.
drugged.
Yeah.
Finally, the natives bring him a dead native man that Graham can't bring back.
And then it gets awkward.
Things get hot for Graham really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just as the others get rescued.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this was Lionel Atwell's last big role.
Yeah, there was some scandalous stuff going on. He was accused of rape and sexual harassment.
Apparently he was a really big partier. He threw really big parties at the
Mhm.
house all the time. And during one of these parties, he got accused of rape or something along those lines. And even though he was never found guilty,
Pretty much ended his career.
yeah.
He only got a few things after that, minor things and stage work, and
And he was in 5 of the 8 different Frankenstein movies.
yeah, big movies.
He was the main
Yeah.
character in the Blue Room we saw a few weeks ago.
And then
He's been in a lot of
and
these.
then he got ill and died like 4 years later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cancer. He had probably
Yeah.
had cancer during this, but he just didn't let it get to him for a while.
Yeah. But between the scandal and the dated racism, savages stuff, and it just being kind of a meh movie, I guess Universal kind of just
Did you notice the music in
about
this
that one.
one?
Not really.
Every time something exciting was about to happen, they used the same soundtrack used for the main theme in the Wolfman film.
No, I didn't.
Dun,
I
dun,
didn't catch
dun,
that.
dun, 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 dun. Yeah,
Oh,
the theme. It's Wolfman, and maybe one of the Frankenstein movies too. It's the exciting monster theme.
oh, okay.
And
No, I didn't catch
there's not
that.
actually a monster in this film.
No.
Okay, well, my final thing here is the film isn't especially bad exactly, but it doesn't know what it wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
It starts out with a little science fiction. He can bring back the dead with suspended animation.
Maybe.
Quickly turns into a police procedural as the police tracks him to the ship and tries to hunt him down. Has a bit of comedy. The Wentworth sisters are really goofball.
Mm-hmm.
I Love Lucy kind of thing here. And then it turns into exotic adventure film and eventually sort of steers toward the horror genre eventually.
Mm.
A little horror at the end there.
Yeah. Good.
It's
Yeah.
all over the place. It's kind of a mess of a movie.
Yeah.
And what's her name? One of the Wentworth sisters, Una Merkel,
Mm-hmm.
whom I don't recognize that name as being in it. She had a long career, I checked, but she's not been in anything we've seen so far. And she got top billing over him after
Yeah,
he'd been in
that
all
was
those
strange.
Universal movies.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Up and coming star, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Overall, it was decent enough. You get a chance to watch it on a nice, clean copy. It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not great though.
Yeah. You are warned. Yeah. What else did you see?
Speaking of mad doctors,
The Revenge of Frankenstein,
because one Frankenstein's not enough. You just don't know when to quit.
a direct sequel to the
Yes.
previous one.
Peter Cushing brought back Christopher Lee in the original Frankenstein. Was Frankenstein? Curse of Frankenstein?
Curse of Frankenstein.
Curse of Frankenstein
Uh-huh.
was the first Hammer one.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, Christopher Lee fell into the vat of acid, and Peter Cushing was led off to the guillotine.
Yeah,
And we wondered at the
the whole
time about
movie
that
was-
German guillotine, and that was a French thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
well.
but in that whole movie was Peter Cushing telling the story of
He was narrating
why
confessing
he was,
it to the priest.
why he was on death row.
Mm-hmm. Well, this one's directed by Terence Fisher, same guy who does all the Hammer films at this time period. Written by Jimmy Sangster, the guy who writes all the Hammer films in this period. And also Herford James is credited with some lines. It said, some lines of dialogue by Herford James. That's mighty specific.
Yeah, it is.
Give him credit, but not too much credit.
Mm-hmm.
Stars Peter Cushing, Francis Matthews, and Eunice Gayson. No Christopher Lee here.
No, not in this one.
Hour and 30 minutes. Amazon link in the show notes. Did you like this one?
Yeah, I did.
I did too.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd seen this one before.
I never
and I
had.
have seen all.
No.
I thought I had seen all of them, but
Yeah,
I don't remember this one.
I had not seen this one.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Takes up right after the first movie ends with Baron Frankenstein being led to the guillotine. We see the blade fall, and then we cut to an inn later that night where two drunkards discuss their criminal grave robbing plan.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we see this with the werewolf?
Mm-hmm.
They go to the crypt and dig up Frankenstein's grave. They open the coffin, and inside they find the priest, not the evil doctor.
What? Not Frankenstein.
Didn't
He's
see
not
that
dead.
coming.
He's
Didn't
not
see that
dead?
coming.
Huh.
One
I
of the
saw that
men,
coming.
yeah, one of the men runs off in fear. Frankenstein shows up and gives the other man a heart attack. Frankenstein and his assistant Carl fill in the grave and move to Carlsbruck, where nobody knows him. Pre-internet, didn't have security cameras everywhere. You could just pick up and move to a different town.
Uh-huh. And Carl is referred to as,
Another dwarf.
yeah, and he's normal height.
He's taller than Peter Cushing in real life. He was
No.
sort of hunched over.
No, that was the other guy.
Well,
Carl.
okay. Still normal height.
Yeah. But he was normal. Yeah, he was shorter. Like Peter Cushing was like 5'11",
Mhm.
and he's a little shorter.
But if you read the blurb on the box, it's Dr. Frankenstein transfers a brain of a dwarf into the... He's the dwarf. And
Yeah, it took us some
huge.
like what? That's
the dwarf.
Like where's the dwarf? Oh, it's him. He's not short.
3 years later,
He's kind of messed up.
yeah, he's got some
Yeah,
issues.
so physical issues. Yeah,
Mentally
we'll
fine.
we'll get to that.
Yeah. 3 years later, Dr. Stein has been luring away all the patients from the more established doctors in town. He's really good, and the other doctors are jealous. They decide to send a small committee to invite Dr. Stein to join them on the council.
And he says no.
Stein doesn't approve of the council, and he throws the guys out. One of the rejected doctors, Dr. Cleve? I think they pronounce it Cleve.
I think it's Cleve, yeah.
Recognizes him as Frankenstein. He doesn't want to turn him in. He wants to learn from Frankenstein.
He wants knowledge.
Dr. Stein agrees to teach him. He shows him to his lab, and he's been really busy in the past few years. Carl is still his assistant, and he's the same man who helped Frankenstein escape from the executioner. And if we rewind back to the beginning, he's there in the procession going to the guillotine to get his head chopped off. And I guess the two of them must have, ganged up on the priest and threw him in.
Well,
odd that there were no other witnesses.
But also that there's a whole madcap adventure there that could have been a little scene by itself, because when they're going to the guillotine, Carl has impersonated the priest, but there's an officiant and the executioner are there. They would have had to do something about them. They killed the priest. Carl took the priest's place, took his vestments, and was wearing those. But
yet the body was buried like it was a good execution and nothing unusual.
And they
happened.
beheaded the priest, whether maybe the priest was already dead, and they put him through the machine just to have.
Well, you hear a struggle before the blade falls, so somebody's doing some fighting.
Yeah, so we don't see the madcap adventure, but there would have been those two guys they would have had to deal with too.
Imaginary madcap adventures.
They might have killed 3 people to get away.
A bloody trail.
Yeah, at least 3.
So, Dr. Frankenstein has an elaborate setup that simulates a simple brain. And it's got the tubes and the wires and the spinny electrical bzz, 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 bzz thing, and it's all complicated and Frankenstein-y.
But it's neat.
Yeah, it looks good. He shows Cleve the new body that he's constructed from parts. This one is perfect. He needs a living brain. That part cannot be substituted from dead bodies. Carl, on the other hand, wants a new body, and he's willing to volunteer for a brain transplant.
This was part of the deal. Frankenstein said, help me escape, and I'll give you a new body. Because Carl he's messed up on the one side. It was a stroke or something, a blood clot or...
Yeah, blood clot. Yeah, there was some mention of a blood clot.
Yeah, his one arm doesn't work
right. His brain
his face
is fine, but there's something that blocks his use of his body.
Yeah, the one side is kind of useless. Yeah.
Margaret comes to work for the doctors, and Carl seems to take a liking to her. They perform the operation, removing Carl's brain. And they make this big deal about putting his brain in the glass jar, and it boops in there.
Splorp.
And from the trivia I read, the brain going on the jar was one reason the censors went crazy over this film. And if you ever seen anybody put a brain in a jar in some other movie, this was nothing special.
Well, and they used a sheep's brain, so it was very realistic looking, because it was a real brain, and plop and blorp and bloody and...
But they have this thin glass jar with the brain in it, and there's several different shots, and they carry it around, and you just know it's going to get dropped on the floor.
But it doesn't.
And
no,
it doesn't.
Not in this one.
Yeah,
not this time around. No.
I fully expected it to, though.
And then have to get Abby Normal's brain. Yeah.
They place the brain inside the new body, and everything seems to be going well. They take him to the back room of the hospital to recover, but they're seen by Dr. Stein's cleaning man, who gets nosier than he should be. He's not a cleaning man, even though he's always carrying the broom around. What is his job? Rabble-rouser?
No, custodian, cleaner.
All right.
Yeah, custodian. Yeah.
The new and improved Carl wakes up and is recovering slowly. Looks like Liam Neeson, actually.
Yeah, quite a bit.
But it looks like things are going well with the surgery. Cleve explains to Carl that he'll be the talk of the town, and every doctor on Earth will want to see him. Carl isn't big on that idea, since people have been staring at him for his whole life.
Yeah, and he'd rather just live a quiet, normal life, but yeah.
The cleaning man goes into the hospital and takes Margaret to see the special patient. I'm not quite sure why they do this other than to advance the plot. Carl recognizes her, but she doesn't know him in his new body. She flirts with Carl, and Carl flirts right back. She
Mhm.
loosens the strap, holding him to the bed.
But he's not a monster.
Yeah, he seems reasonable.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah.
Cleve figures out that the experimental monkey in the lab is a carnivore, while normal monkeys only eat vegetables. What did Frankenstein do to him? Well, it seems that carnivorous cannibalism is a side effect of the operation.
Yeah, I don't know if we mentioned the.
Could that happen to Carl?
Because he had experimented on the monkey first and done a brain transplant.
he's done
this
this
was
before.
not the monkey's original brain, but jarring it, giving him shock or anything upsetting during the healing process. But Carl will be fine because he's restrained to bed and he's not doing anything and he's just laying there recuperating, right?
Meanwhile, Carl gets up, gets dressed, admires himself in the mirror,
Oops.
and crawls out the window. Carl heads to Frankenstein's lab and breaks in. He goes inside to find his old dead body. He burns it in the furnace so the scientists won't be able to examine him. The drunken landlord comes in and attacks Carl. Carl then goes berserk and kills the man.
Not a nice, quiet, soothing healing process.
No, he
Yeah.
gets beat up and thrown across the room a couple of times, and
Mm-hmm.
things don't go well.
Punched in the head several times.
And you see him, he's got his face
brainless-
kind of twisted up at this point because something's...
Yeah,
He's
something's
losing control.
Something's gone wrong with the It would have been fine. He wouldn't have been a monster. They should have just left him alone.
Stupid landlord.
Yeah.
Carl notices the monkey eating some meat, and he thinks that looks pretty tasty. He freaks
Nice
out.
little drooling bit there.
Yeah.
When he
as
realizes,
he admires the
when
landlord
he
laying on the
realizes,
floor.
that guy's made of meat, and he literally, you can see it on his face, and literally drool starts running out of his mouth.
He freaks out and runs off rather than eat the landlord, but he wants to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Frankenstein and Cleve figure out where Carl went and find the bodies. Frankenstein expects that Carl will come back to him sooner or later. Well, Vera finds Carl hiding in her barn. Vera, Margaret, two women in this movie who look almost identical, and I'm not quite sure why there were two women when one would have done as characters, and it's
And at
really
one
back
point-
and forth, they're interchangeable, and
And
they
at one
confuse
point,
me.
we're confused. Is that Vera? Or is that Margaret? And
It didn't really matter.
and it didn't matter, but we had a hard time telling apart.
For some reason, there are two characters that look almost identical that may as well be the same character.
Yeah.
Well, Vera brings Dr. Cleve to attend to Carl in her barn. Meanwhile, Carl goes to the park and kills a girl because he's insane now.
Mm-hmm.
He winds up literally crashing the party. Well, he's reverted to his deformed shape. He's got his whole hunch and bent and all that.
Yeah.
And he calls Dr. Stein
Sad.
Frankenstein in front of the whole party before he keels over and dies.
Cat's out of the bag.
Frankenstein isn't worried. He's made contingency plans. And he says that.
Mm-hmm.
I have plans. He goes before the doctor's council and lies to them, and they fall for it. Mostly.
Mm-hmm.
They dig up the grave and find the dead priest. Now they're not so fallen for it.
Mm-hmm.
His patients turn against him and beat him up badly until Cleve intervenes. Cleve says Frankenstein's body is unrepairable, but his brain looks okay. And fortunately, they've been building another. Meanwhile, the police come in to arrest Dr. Stein. But Cleve shows them that he died on the operating table a few hours ago.
Mhm.
Look, there's dead Peter Cushing. What you gonna
he's
do
laying
about
there
it?
dead, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Later in London, we see that Dr. Frankie, Franke, Dr. Frankie,
I think Frank, probably. Yeah.
Frankie Stein.
Yeah, Frank Stein, yeah.
has been performing surgery. And he looks just like Peter Cushing, only now he has a mustache and a monocle.
And that was the contingency. Remember, we saw that. the
Yeah,
body.
there was a body.
'cause
I didn't recognize it laying on the table with the
Mhm.
scars that it looked like him, but
Yeah.
it did.
Peter
it did.
Cushing had
built
showed-
a replacement of his own body.
built a replacement and sculpted the face to look just like his own. And then at the end, he's
Yeah.
been transplanted into that body. Yeah.
This I thought was really good.
Yeah, I thought it was very clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's no Christopher Lee in this one, as it was filmed right after or somewhat simultaneous to The Horror of Dracula, Christopher Lee's big Dracula film. Still, the goings-on and twists in this story are really very good. The evil doctor almost got away with it on his second try, and apparently he completely did get away with it on his third try.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But, he'll screw up and do something stupid again and probably blow it.
Oh, we'll never see Frankenstein again. He got away with it.
Yeah, but he won't, learn from his mistakes and just live a quiet, life without
Are you saying there are some
experiments
things that man was not meant to know?
He's going to keep experimenting, and he's going to do something stupid and make another monster, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't really any hokey. There were some things man were not meant to know crap in this one. Nobody said it.
No.
Nobody even thought it.
No.
Surprisingly, I don't recollect ever having seen this one before, but maybe it was a little too much for network TV. The Cannibal Monkey, Carl wanting the same thing, and of course Raising the Dead all combined to be a fairly effective movie for having been done in 1958.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's 71 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time, and it's a very good movie still.
Yeah. It
Speaking-
was. Yeah. And speaking of very good movies,
We saw a short this week.
called
Nail. Bang Those Nails.
And it was an international film with no dialogue.
I
So
like
they
how the
can-
international ones never have any
They
talking.
can get away with releasing it internationally then. Yeah.
And they're still
Yeah.
good.
But there were signs. There was text here and there and different subtle things. You could tell it was not U.S.
You mean like signs on the road and the posters on the walls, not like subtitles?
Oh, his divorce papers.
Yeah, yeah.
You could recognize the word divorce, but the rest of it was not English.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Written and directed by J.B. Minerva, stars Diego de Tovar and Daniela Matus. Runtime 11:36. YouTube link in the you-know-what show notes. You liked it?
I did. I liked it a lot.
I did like it too.
Yeah.
Well, we start by watching a man drive a nail into the wall. He hangs a poster there. He's recently divorced and is moving into his new single man's apartment. As he drives in another nail, he hears someone on the other side of the wall pounding back. He then plays his electric guitar, resulting in more pounding. He soon starts to enjoy aggravating his neighbor. Well, he hears some screaming coming from the other apartment that night, so he calls 911. The police don't do anything, so he assumes it was probably really nothing.
Well, they do come.
They do come, yeah.
And he watches them out the window, and then
they come in,
a few
and
minutes
then they go
later, the
back
cop
out.
leaves.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The next morning, he goes over to meet his neighbor, and it's an older lady in a very nice, clean apartment. She shows him to the room from where he's been hearing the noises, and the sound seems to be coming from inside the wall. The screams can be heard from her side as
She hears it
well.
on her side, too. Yeah.
And how can he solve the problem? You'll have to tune in and find out.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
This may be the least realistic film I have seen this week. I mean, who in their right mind allows nails in the wall of an apartment? It doesn't happen.
Oh, yeah, you just do it anyway.
Security deposit? How
patch-
horrifying could that be?
Patch them with toothpaste when you leave. Yeah.
I'd rather raise the dead.
Oh.
Of course, after seeing this story, maybe there's a reason you aren't allowed to hang things on the apartment walls.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this one had a neat idea that I haven't seen done before, and the acting and effects were very good.
Yes, it was. All around very good.
Yeah, it was decent. Yeah.
Bravo. But then we come to Chaos AD.
You say but then. I think I know where this one's going.
Well,
we had the Mad Doctor was
this one was
Shazam.
this one was a mixed bag.
Another mixed bag. Okay.
A mixed bag. Yes.
Chaos AD 2016, released in 2016.
But then re-released
a new
How- what was
distribution
it?
company in
a new
2019.
newly distributed in 2019. That's the way to put it.
Had a heck of a time finding the DVD of this one on Amazon. Apparently there was a music CD called Chaos AD put out by somebody, and that's all I could find there. So in the show notes we have a Walmart link, believe it or not.
Where you can buy it at Walmart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the streaming services have it. I believe not Amazon Prime. Look for it. Yeah.
Streaming.
It's tricky. Chaos AD.
Yeah.
Written and directed by Chris Woods. Stars Lisa Marie Cart, Ashley Lynn Caputo, Kate Phoenix, and Eric Danger Dion. Danger is literally this guy's middle name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hour and 40 minutes. Link in the show notes.
IMDb says there was a budget of $4,000. And considering that, they did a heck of a job. If that's an accurate figure. It's a heck of a job.
$4,000 is not much.
It's not much at all
for a movie.
And it was really involved and good effects and well, go on and tell the good people about it.
How do you know these are good people? They're watching this horror podcast.
Tell the bad people about it.
Okay.
Tell everybody.
Okay, evil viewers.
Tell our viewers and listeners.
We see a couple having breakfast while a radio reporter mentions various murders and atrocities. The wife then strangles her husband at the kitchen table. The strangling part doesn't work, so she resorts to a meat cleaver. Thwack.
Mm-hmm.
A girl and her brother make plans to go to the big Halloween party tonight, and they put poop on some guy's car handle and run off, just so we can see that they're young, impetuous, and a little silly.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Foley is running for Congress. He's also screwing a prostitute while they watch his campaign ad in the motel room. Meanwhile, the murderous wife has to dispose of her dead husband's body. She puts down the paper and uses the electric carving knife to dismember him in the bathtub. And we see flashbacks to the husband beating her with a belt. So he kind of had it coming.
Mm-hmm.
The young duo talk about some girls who went missing, abducted by some kind of a cult. They talk about the costumes they plan to wear to tonight's party. Jack Foley hires a second prostitute that gets tasered by a woman in strange makeup. The young duo get beat up by their father, but they turn the tables on him and run out anyway. The wife goes to dump the body parts at the local lake, but gets grabbed by a strange bald man when she arrives there. Bald man reminded me a lot of
Sid Haig.
Sid Haig, Captain Spaulding. Yeah.
Budget Sid Haig is what I have here. Yeah.
Budget Sid Haig.
Yeah, very reminiscent of him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, less
younger, but yeah.
Yeah, less interesting dialogue.
Yeah, he doesn't say much.
He doesn't say much, yeah, but very reminiscent of him.
Yeah. Sarah, the girl with her brother, meets the strange woman in the makeup at the Halloween party. Sarah goes for a walk, unrelated to that, and runs into the strange bald guy who abducted the murderous wife. Sarah witnesses another girl getting drilled in the eye by two makeup-wearing girls before being attacked by the bald man.
And the gore was pretty good there, the drilling and all these.
There's a lot of gore,
all these
yes.
various things, yeah.
Before long, most of these people wake up in cages, captured by the cult known as Freak.
And what is-
F-R-E-A-K.
And what does freak stand for?
Fucking restless, extreme asshole killers. But you probably guessed that.
Restless?
Reckless.
Reckless. Okay, I thought you said restless. Yeah. Reckless.
Well, maybe. I don't know how
Yeah.
much sleep they've had, but no,
Anyway,
they're reckless.
Yeah.
And the rest of the film is essentially a torrent of blood-soaked, bouncing boobies and excessive gore.
A lot of bouncing movies in this.
Yeah, pretty much the entire rest of the movie is these people in cages being tormented or getting revenge or something with blood. Blood and boobies.
Lots of blood. They used a lot of blood in this movie.
Yeah.
Gallons and gallons.
This film is brought to us by The Sleaze Box. I
Which is
love that
pretty
company
awesome.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'd have started a company like this, I'd have called it The Sleaze Box.
Which
That's just
explains
great.
explains the bloody bouncing movies.
It does, yes. And as you said, its budget was $4,000.
Which, I mean, they
So you know it's going to be a special film.
Yeah, but they must have had people chipping in or bringing their own stuff or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
There's
a lot
no
of
way.
the sets
there's
and things were built by them.
no way they could have put all of this together for $4,000. It was too much, and the effects were too good, and there are too many locations, and for $4,000.
Well, if
Yeah.
you want to get extra publicity, they
But
could have
if
said
people-
$400 and really
Yeah.
been impressive.
Yeah,
But if it's even half true and it was $40,000, I thought it looked really good for what they did.
yeah.
Actually, the gore effects were really good. The acting was decent,
Mm-hmm.
and it seemed well written and directed. It's very low budget and high sleaze, but they did a lot with what they had. High sleaze in a good way. In a good way. The first 30 or 40 minutes are well enough acted setup. I don't say well acted. I'm saying well enough acted.
Mm-hmm.
And everything from the 40-minute mark onwards is just torture of various kinds without much in the way of acting going on. The nearly an hour or so of gore and sleaze shots wore me down, but it's good if you're really into that kind of thing.
That's kind of how I would put it too. That last hour kind of
All ran together and kind of dragged to me, I thought.
a little bit, yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you're into those kind of shots, it's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Overall, I'd have to admit overall, this was a lot better than I expected going in.
Mm-hmm. And overall, I give it a thumbs up.
I would give it a thumbs up also.
Yeah.
Okay, last week we had like 4 thumbs up, and I wasn't sure what he was going to say about the Killer Toon, the subtitled anime kind of movie. This week, our international film is called The Berberian Sound. Berberian, Berberian. Berberian Sound Studio from 2012. Stars directed by and written and directed by Peter Strickland. Stars Toby Jones. You know him even if you don't know the name. You've seen him in things.
He's done tons of things.
Antonio Mancino, Guido Adorni, 1 hour, 32 minutes. Italian, subtitled mostly. About half subtitle, half
A lot of
English.
Italian, because it takes place in Italy. He gets a job in Italy, so.
All right, I can't wait to hear this. What'd you think?
I liked it.
You did like it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you right now, you're either going to really like this film or you're going to really hate this film.
I think so.
And
I don't think there
I
would
don't
be
think
any,
there's much in the middle of
I
this
don't think
one.
there would be any in between. Yeah.
Yeah. There's. Okay, well, yeah, you liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
A sound engineer named Gilderoy shows up at Studio 4 of the Berberian Sound Studio to work on a new Italian giallo? I know we've discussed how you pronounce that word before. I'm going to go with
Giallo.
Italian
Giallo.
giallo horror film.
Giallo? Yeah.
Italian sleazebox.
Yeah. Yeah.
We see the credits roll, but the credits actually belong to the film he's working on, not the one we're watching.
Which is weird.
Kind of weird, yeah.
Yeah.
You see the producer and the stars and the director, and it's not the real people from the film.
Mm-hmm.
Gilderoy is played by Toby Jones, who usually just plays Toby Jones, a nervous little British guy. Right off the bat, he has trouble getting reimbursed for his flight ticket to Italy. Who are you going to... I get this... You reimburse this ticket? Yeah, I'll take... Not right now.
Yeah,
Talk to
tomorrow.
my secretary. Secretary says, talk to the director. Director says, talk to the producer. Producer says, talk to the secretary. You know how it is, because he's already decided these people are trying to scream out of the money.
Well, and it starts right out, too. He's a little bit, lost in translation. Because, he goes in and...
He doesn't speak Italian.
He doesn't speak Italian is part of the problem, but the director speaks English, and most of them speak English. But, he greets him, and like the Italian guy's like, oh, that's not how we greet people. We greet people in Italy with hugs and kisses, and
and he's a tiny little reserved British guy.
Yeah, very restrained, reserved British guy, and and
lives with his mother and watches
this big
the birds
old hug from the
yeah.
Italian guy right off the bat, and it's already
fish out of water.
Yeah, fish out of water, very much. Yeah.
Well, the director is really bossy and appears to be cheap as well. We see them record various scenes in the movie. Well, Gilderoy plays with spiders and makes a mess of his shirts. There's one scene where he's making this thing in a blender. It's like tomato juice in a blender. And he forgets to put the top on. And it just all over
And
him.
it's for a
chainsaw
sound effect. Somebody getting whacked with a chainsaw in the movie.
Oh,
that's what.
I thought he was just having lunch.
No, it was he was trying to get the right amount of liquid in it to have the whirring motor and a nice liquid splutter at the same time.
Oops.
Yeah, he was working on his liquid level with no lid and all over him. Yeah.
Well, most of the people don't speak English, so he really doesn't have anyone to talk to. He's clearly at a loss at this studio, and he admits he's never worked on a horror film before, although the producer gets upset and tells him not to call it a horror film.
Yeah,
it's a Santini film, not a horror film.
They do speak English when they're talking to him, but they're talking Italian anytime.
The movie is in Italian.
And yeah, the movie's in Italian.
The movie they're working on.
Yeah, and whenever they are working together, everybody around him is always speaking in Italian, and half the time he doesn't know what they're talking about.
He's very curious as to why they hired him. He's one of the best sound designers in England, I guess, but he's never done this kind of thing before. And he's clearly not well suited to this studio. And we never really get an answer why him.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
The film he's working on has something to do with witches who were killed long ago, and the producer says it's all based on a true story.
And the effects that the movie is very graphic, I guess. We never actually see the movie. We never see any footage.
He's
of
working
the
on
movie.
the sound. The film
But
has already
we
been
hear-
filmed.
We
but
hear the
hear it.
movie, the screams and graphic torture and
They kill all the witches one way or another. yeah.
graphically, very and
But we never see it.
But chopping and burning and sizzling and he's got to do all the sound effects
Yeah.
for all these things, and it's getting to him as it goes on.
Gilderoy starts getting distracted, and he's homesick. But mostly, it's the subject of the film is disturbing him emotionally.
Hmm.
He's one of those people who aren't into horror.
Yeah.
He seems to be easy pickings for the bully of a director.
Hmm.
Gilderoy is a fish out of water in Italy and working on a horror movie, but we get the impression that everything's not necessarily quite what it seems.
And everything does seem a little bit off.
Yeah.
Right? And more so as it
More as it
progresses.
goes, yeah. Again, they're still dragging their feet about paying his airfare, and this is an ongoing battle. They say there was no such flight that day. He made the whole thing up, and Gilderoy starts getting really upset. The producer forces an actress to have sex with him, and in revenge, she throws tape and film all over the studio, ruining a lot of work. They have to hire a new actress, and then Gilderoy has a very surreal late-night experience that's hard to describe. Then the next day, the unreality continues into the workday as real life and the horror movie collide.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
You liked it.
Yeah, I did.
I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did.
You get to see a lot of what goes into adding the sound to a film, which I thought was very interesting,
Mm-hmm.
with the notes and the scores and the timelines and the Foley stuff.
And they're using practical sound effects. A lot of food related, smashing.
Oh, the
smashing
the
melons
vegetable
with a
carnage
hammer.
is
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Stabbing the
Dropping eggs and ripping radishes apart was one. He
pulling
was,
out the witch's
yeah.
hair, and you see him breaking these radishes in half.
Yeah.
Somebody gets stabbed, and he's killing the lettuce.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
This was supposed to have taken place in the 1970s, which explains the complete lack of computers.
Yeah, it's very analog.
And
all
it's
their-
very
all their
neat to
tech.
see how it was
Yeah.
done.
It's very high tech for the 70s. Just tons of equipment, but all analog.
Yeah. I think the main horror here is having your soul sucked out by being stuck in a place and situation that you can't get out of, but you really don't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
One of those jobs, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Gilderoy
Yeah.
hated this job so much the world just sort of folded in upon him. The acting here is all very good.
Mm-hmm.
There's only
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 actors, and they're all good at what they're doing. The sound effects and music are excellent, and it's fun to watch.
It's all about the sound effects.
It really is.
Yeah.
There's little to no plot, however, and in all honesty, nothing really happens in this film.
Yeah, that is strange.
I was still entertained throughout,
Mm-hmm.
and have to say it's one of the most unique horror films I've seen this year. It's very different, but I totally recommend it.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Now,
Of these
spoiler
of
alert.
these 4, this is one that I would recommend the highest, actually.
Frankenstein was really good, but this was just really neat.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to either love it or you hate it. There's no action. There's no monster. Spoiler. It's just him sort of going a little crazy because this job sucks so bad.
Or is there more to it than that?
Or there could be more to it than that, but
Mm-hmm.
I lean toward not really.
Hmm.
I don't think there is more to it than that. I think you just kind of a little crazied
Hmm.
up there.
Could be.
It's open
You
to
decide.
interpretation.
Yes.
Yeah. But if you're looking for something really different and fun and very moody, it's very moody and environmental and
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's our show.
it is.
Thanks for joining us. Stop in during the week at horrorguys.com for news and horror updates, to comment on the podcast, or to contact us. Our phone number is 937-453-1575. Email us at horrorguysmail@gmail.com. Of course, both of these will be in the show notes. Get ready for next week, where we'll be discussing some more great classic and modern horror. Guess what we're going to see?
I have no idea.
Calling Dr. Death from 1943. I'm betting that's right there, same quality as the one we saw this week.
1-800-DEATH.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't
Calling
know.
Dr. Death. Kiss of the Vampire, Hammer from 1963. Antichrist from 2009, and I've heard a lot about that one.
I have, yeah.
And Martyrs, and I've heard a lot about
I've
that
heard
one
about that
from
one, yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
And Martyrs is one of the subtitle ones. Antichrist is just one of those
I've
extreme
heard
ones.
of all 4 of these, and I've not seen any of them.
Yeah, well, this is our big chance.
Yeah.
Check us out, horrorguys.com, for all the written reviews, and I'll see you next week. I'm
See you.
Brian,
I'm Kevin.
and we'll see you
Next week.
for episode 51. We could do something
Bye-bye.
special for our anniversary.
Bye.